One law that God gave the children of Israel that has not been adopted by Western and Christian civilization, and indeed was not followed very effectively by the Jewish people themselves, was the law of the year of Jubilee. This law was that every 7th year the land was to be fallowed, to be rested. They were not to harvest the produce of the land or to sow crops every 7th year. This is following the principle of the weekly Sabbath, that 7th day should be a day of rest. So the 7th year was to be a year of rest for the land. What were the people to eat? They were to eat that which they harvested in the 6th year. They were to trust God that there would be sufficient. Of course, they knew that next year they would have no harvest, so they would be storing up in the 6th year for the 7th year, and they could make other plans for their lives. This idea has been adopted in some academic circles with a sabbatical year. Many educational institutions allow their staff to go and visit another institution and do some different kind of work on the 7th year, and they are supported in doing that. But in addition to the rest of the 7th year, the sabbatical year, every 50th year was a year of Jubilee. The idea was that any land that was sold, all you were selling was the use of the land until the next year of Jubilee, when the land would revert to its original owners. We read from Leviticus chapter 25, verse 25. If one of your brethren becomes poor and has sold some of his possession, and if his redeeming relative comes to redeem it, then he may redeem what his brother sold. Or if the man has no one to redeem it, but he himself becomes able to redeem it, then let him count the years since its sale and restore the remainder to the man to whom he sold it, that he may return to his possession. But if he is not able to have it restored to himself, then what was sold shall remain in the hand of him who bought it until the year of Jubilee, and in the Jubilee it shall be released, and he shall return to his possession. If a man sells a house in a walled city, then he may redeem it within a whole year after it is sold. Within a full year he may redeem it, but if it is not redeemed within the space of a full year, then the house in the walled city shall belong permanently to him who bought it throughout his generations. It shall not be released in the Jubilee. However, the houses of villages which have no wall around them shall be counted as the fields of the country. They may be redeemed, and they shall be released in the Jubilee. Nevertheless, the cities of the Levites and the houses in the cities of their possession, the Levites may redeem at any time. And if a man purchases a house from the Levites, then the house that was sold in the city of his possession shall be released in the Jubilee, for the houses in the cities of the Levites are their possession among the children of Israel. But the field of the common land of the cities may not be sold, for it is their perpetual possession. If one of your brethren becomes poor and falls into poverty among you, then you shall help him like a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with you. Take no usury or interest from him, but fear your God, that your brother may live with you. You shall not lend him your money for usury, nor lend him your food at a profit. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, to give you the land of Canaan, and to be your God. And if one of your brethren who dwells by you becomes poor, and sells himself to you, you shall not compel him to serve as a slave. As a hired servant and a sojourner he shall be with you, and shall serve you until the year of Jubilee. And then he shall depart from you, he and his children with him, and shall return to his own family. He shall return to the possession of his fathers. For they are my servants, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as slaves. You shall not rule over him with rigour, but you shall fear your God. And as for your male and female slaves whom you have, from the nations that are around you, from them you may buy male and female slaves. Moreover, you may buy the children of the strangers who dwell among you, and their families who are with you, which they beget in your land, and they shall become your property. And you may take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them as a possession. They shall be your permanent slaves. But regarding your brethren, the children of Israel, you shall not rule over one another with rigour. Now, if a sojourner or stranger close to you becomes rich, and one of your brethren who dwells by him becomes poor, and sells himself to the stranger or sojourner close to him, or to a member of the stranger's family, after he is sold, he may be redeemed again. One of his brothers may redeem him, or his uncle or his uncle's son may redeem him, or anyone who is near of kin to him in his family may redeem him, or if he is able, he may redeem himself. Thus he shall reckon with him who brought him. The price of his release shall be according to the number of years, from the year that he was sold to him until the year of Jubilee. It shall be according to the time of a hired servant for him. If there are still many years remaining, according to them he shall pay the price of his redemption from the money which he has bought. And if there remain but a few years until the year of Jubilee, then he shall reckon with him, and according to his years he shall repay him the price of his redemption. He shall be with him as a yearly hired servant, and he shall not rule with rigour over him in your sight. And if he is not redeemed in these years, then he shall be released in the year of Jubilee, he and his children with him. For the children of Israel are servants of me. They are my servants, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord. My name's Arthur, and I thank you for joining me as we see the provision God is making for those people who get into financial trouble. They have resources, but they, for one reason or another, are not able to maintain them, and so to get out of debt they may sell their services to someone who has wealth. But because they are children of Israel, they have permanent rights in the land, and those rights are returned to them in the year of Jubilee. This becomes a major constraint on the economics of the society, and means that the rich cannot continually accumulate wealth forever, but rather that which they have gained from others is of decreasing value until it has no value and it is returned to the original owner. A key part of this, though, is the right of redemption by the next of kin. This is significant in the story of Ruth, where Boaz is next of kin to Elimelech, and he redeems. He buys back the land that Elimelech sold when he went to Moab. Because he was in financial situation, he thought he could do better, but it turned out to be a disaster for him. Nevertheless, Boaz bought the land and restored the inheritance through Ruth, raising up a son also. And it is a picture of what the Lord Jesus does for us, because we are spiritually and materially bankrupt. We are in debt to the Lord. But the Lord Jesus has redeemed us in accord with the teaching of this chapter, and we enter into that deliverance at the resurrection, which is ultimately a new beginning, pictured very clearly with the year of Jubilee. All debts are cancelled. But God also made a distinction between the children of Israel and foreigners who may be among them. The children of Israel could never become slaves, and they were not to be charged interest. But for those who were outside the nation, the Jews could charge interest, and indeed the Jewish people have been very effective at business. But among their own people, they are to support one another without charging interest. And this has been a very important principle over the centuries as the Jewish people have been persecuted among the nations. The Lord has maintained them because they have supported one another in the hard times that they have gone through. God is concerned for the poor, and God has made provision for us all